love featuring new speakers at Nexus, like Michaela, whose first Nexus it is. We also, more than anything, love telling your stories. We read your applications and we think, oh, this person's going to speak next year, and this person's going to speak at our USA Summit. So we heard Micah, who we met last year from Israel, and now Cameron, who we've heard from Europe. I'd love to invite to the stage a Nexus member I first met, I think, back in 2003, who is here in New York, thankfully, as of recently. Karam Hamdouja, CEO and founder of Timeless, has been involved with Nexus for quite a few years, and now he's going to be announcing something publicly for the first time here at Nexus that we're really excited to be partnering with him on. So, Karam, if you could please come to the stage. I have the great honor of interviewing Karam myself.
Hi.
With the microphone. Thank you so much. Now, Karam, for those people in the audience who might not know you or your family, can you give us just in like 3 sentences the background on the Hamdouja Group?
Sure. So we're a family business, about 100 years old. I'm the eldest of the 4th generation. We're pretty diversified in sectors across the globe, primarily banking, oil and gas, manufacturing, healthcare, and a few others. And I've essentially started the media vertical as an extension of the family business.
Ah, we're getting clues, media vertical. So tell us, what is this new passion for media, and where did this idea get started?
Yeah, so, I grew up in a household of very serious men who talk about, very analytical things over dinner, a lot of numbers being thrown around, and, I never kind of gelled with that growing up.
Hold on, we're going to pause. Raise your hand if you grew up in a very serious household and never quite gelled with you. Okay, so that's everybody. Continue.
I was very keen on film growing up. It's actually a passion I shared with my grandfather. One of our earlier businesses that's not really core to the group today, but used to be, is film financing and distribution. So we were the first family to essentially start distributing Indian film abroad. We started with Russia and Afghanistan and Iran as well. And it's a passion that he shared and he kind of passed along to me while growing up. And we used to watch films together, talk about them. So, I became very interested in the power of storytelling. It had a sort of profound effect on my life growing up. Stories that kind of resonated with me, and I've always thought that stories have the power to sort of become part of one's DNA and shape one's outlook in life. So, that concept became very interesting to me, and I started to write a number of screenplays when I was in college, and the idea was to sort of pursue the more creative side of the industry. At the same time, obviously, just based on what I'd been exposed to growing up, I'd been also eager to kind of explore this idea of just building a business from the ground up and building an institution. So, the worlds kind of collided for me when I discovered the business side of the media industry. And that really sort of seemed to resonate with me, where I could pursue both my creative, aspirations, and then also kind of stay true to, what's been in the DNA of the family, so to speak.
Got it. So that's a really beautiful story about inspiration. Now, I'm going to go off script. Tell us, what is your favorite movie? I didn't prep him for this.
That's a tough question. There's actually a film that I recommend to most of my close friends. It's a very deep and sometimes dark film. I haven't come across a film that has made me think so much. And I think everyone who's seen it that I've recommended it to has, sort of experienced the same thing. It's called The Fountain. Darren Aronofsky directed it. Hugh Jackman actually starred in it. Many people don't know about this because it didn't do very well. I think it was like 2006. You weren't involved. Sorry?
Because you weren't involved.
Yes, because I wasn't. So that's one of many films that I think is very, very interesting.
And so what's this inspiration really behind what you're doing? We've heard about the family business and you're interested in film, but now there's this new media company. So tell us the inspiration behind this.
Yeah, so, as I said, media has had a huge impact on my life, and stories have resonated with me. And, I sort of really started to like this idea of institutionalizing that to some degree, right? Is how can we create a structure or an entity that sort of helps create that same feeling in people that I was able to experience. And to some degree, that's a traditional school of thought in terms of building a traditional media network where we have both production and distribution arms. But what's important for me and important for our organization is the sort of human intelligence element, ensuring that we are utilizing and capturing and utilizing rather, data points and sort of audience intelligence at every step of the way to determine and dictate how we're going about both production and distribution process. Because if we're truly able to understand people at their core, we're able to create even more inspiring and powerful content that resonates with them at a deeper level. And I think when we're able to sort of use content to really move people, amazing things can happen.
Indeed. Now, how do you marry the passions you have for media with the traditional verticals that the Hinduja Group is working in? Because there is a legacy, and you are part of it. How do you balance those two?
It's pretty tough. Aside from my grandfather, I'm the only one who's kind of ventured to build something brand new. So there's some support, from my grandfather and things like that, but other family members are kind of hoping that I would lend more time to the other businesses. Overall supportive, but at times things get really busy. It's also interesting just because I sit on the boards of some of our financial services companies and healthcare companies, and serving as a director in those established businesses is very helpful, right? And I think it's a very different skill set taking a company from 0 to 1 and then 1 onwards, two very different skill sets. So I'm able to sort of learn as we're going with Timeless and learn how to build a company from the ground up, but really understanding how to operate and scale a business after it reaches a certain point is what I'm able to get from my other positions at the other companies.
So now you've got to actually tell us, what is it that you're working on?
Well, it's not too different to what I mentioned a couple minutes ago, but I started this extension of the family business under the brand name Timeless, and Timeless is a sort of creative think tank, as it were. And the objective is to really, project out 50 years or as far out as we can project and, think about what is the future of media, what's the future of storytelling. And, as I mentioned, we're taking this slightly more data-driven approach as opposed to purely a creative process. And the role of Timeless is to really build and make operational the media companies and opportunities that we see room for in the market and what we want to kind of bring to life. So at the moment, we're kind of building from the ground up, 4 or 5 companies. We also have an investment arm, so we're constantly looking at strategic investment opportunities, buyout opportunities, anything that can help us take multiple steps forward at a time. So we're continuing to look at opportunities, but in the interim, we're of course building these companies from the ground up. The primary of which is Karma. I met with a number of people just about an hour or so ago. We were talking a little bit about Karma. You guys may see that we're one of the sponsors here. Karma is essentially an original programming network aimed at creating content for accredited next-generation investors and innovators.
So like the people in this room.
The people in this room, that's exactly why we thought this would be a good fit. And the thinking there is there's a fundamental dynamic shift that's taking place in the way that this generation, tries to identify global economic opportunities as an investor or as someone who's founded a company or is going to be founding a company. So, one, I see much more appetite for our generation to be much more active as investors, not relying on banks and service providers to kind of dictate our investment philosophy and criteria, but we're much more ears to the ground. We're identifying deals ourselves. We're looking to take a much more mission-driven approach in many cases. And the second is the appetite for direct deals. I think no one really has the patience for intermediaries anymore. So there's much more of a sort of direct deal appetite. And then last is really the role of social impact. And social impact obviously is a huge theme here at Nexus. And I think collectively in this room, everyone is quite progressive in the thinking behind social impact and how that plays in. And the way we see it is, sure, some people may want to do good and they're driven by that objective and intention, and that, that's fantastic, obviously. But I think getting to brass tacks, the way I see it, is using those social metrics to sort of identify better financial opportunities is the approach that we're taking with Karma. And we're not getting prescriptive about how one should invest. If they want to sort of forego on returns in order to have a more impactful investment, that's great. If they want to do the reverse, that's also fine. But I think it's important for any investor to kind of be more aware of the sort of impact and outcomes of beyond just pure play financial metrics that sort of give better insight into where better economic opportunities may lie.
So what does success look like for Karma down the line?
I think in the short term, the objective is really, how can we help people identify, like I said, those global economic opportunities. I think emphasis on the word global. There are no investor today or no innovator today can be anything but global. We're much more aware of, how market dynamics across the globe are kind of affecting us here today. And, we really want to empower people to take smarter action with the content that we're producing. And I'd say in the long term, with Karma and with Timeless, we really want to kind of have, as I said, both production and distribution, which is rooted and grounded in this sort of human intelligence approach, so that we can take that sort of, that smarter approach in both creating and distributing our content. So once we're able to kind of keep, building those components and having that entire engine work as one, that to me is longer term success.
So I'm going to go off script again, but tell us a little bit about some of these shows, because it's hard to understand. There's a new digital media platform for next generation investors and innovators, but what does that look like in practice? So what are some of these shows that we're going to start tuning into?
Sure. So we're taking a show-based approach, similar to what Vice has done. We didn't like this idea of just having, guy or a girl sitting at a desk talking about things that seem very complicated. It doesn't really do anyone any good or make any sense, really, in many cases. So we've taken a show-based approach. We have around 12 or so original shows. Each one has a very specific theme and focus. And it's quite a diverse range. So, some of our shows are, geared more towards sort of the consumer side, helping you take smarter actions when you're buying products, knowing exactly what you're buying and where your money is going so that you can be a smarter consumer, all the way through to, some of our investment shows that are comparable to, let's say, Jim Cramer for the private markets, right? So buy-side experts actually sitting there deconstructing a deal at a time, but then, ensuring that we're not just talking at the macro scale, but really tying everything back to the macro, right? So if we were to compare ourselves to anything, we would say we're The Economist on video, just because I think they do a fantastic job of, again, not getting prescriptive, understanding the fact that each investor is going to be different. Each investor is going to have their own criteria and end game and philosophy. And I think they do a fantastic job of giving you a sort of lay of the land on a global scale, explaining what are the various different dynamics at work and what you need to be aware of so that you can make a more informed and educated decision. So that's the sort of theme across the board for all of our shows. But like I said, it's quite diverse. Another one that I'll just quickly explain before I explain the one that you're going to see a little bit of in a second. One number is all of our shows are interesting, but I think that one is particularly interesting.
If you had a child, it's your favorite child.
Yeah, I think so. One number, I think, does a great job of bringing what old media has not done such a good job of doing, which is taking both problem and solution-based journalism and, really bringing a more contextual approach to the way we're telling stories. And just very quickly to describe it, we take a number or a statistic that people may have heard but don't truly understand. So X percentage of the rainforest has been damaged. Great, that may sound like a big deal, but as an investor or operator sitting here in New York City, why do I care? Why does that affect my day-to-day decision making? So half of the episode is kind of, aimed at almost following the supply chain and giving you a step-by-step of, okay, fine, this is happening in location A. This is why it affects you as an investor today in this location. And then the second half really sort of presents viable solutions and innovations that potentially could solve that problem. So again, it's not talking about things in a silo, but it's really making it contextual and actionable, if that makes sense.
So Karam's here because he said he'd love to offer Karma as a gift to the community, meaning that you're looking for people at Nexus to feature in your shows, whether it's one number and all of you are working on an issue, whether it's a statistic you think only if people around the world knew this, they would be alarmed. And then only if they were able to follow people like you who have solutions addressing it, they would be inspired. So really, you're saying that you're willing to donate this platform to people who are here to share their stories. So I do encourage all of you to come up to Karam and the Karma team if you have interest in having your story, your statistic, your project being featured in some way. I think it's an amazing opportunity to get the ideas and collaborations and solutions at Nexus outside of this room and really reverberating around the world on what they call the interwebs, if that's what I've heard. So I thank you so much for offering the Karma team and your vision and these different shows to us to help amplify the stories of our members. Do you want to cue up what we're going to see?
Sure, yeah, just on that, we're very excited about it. We have a bunch of people from Karma here. You'll see us walking around. We're going to be covering a lot of the events, but we're also going to be doing live versions of 3 or 4 of our shows here. So please look out for us. We'd be very interested to kind of hear your story and have you participate in that. So what you guys are about to see is a short sizzle of one of our shows called Inflection Point. And the objective for Inflection Point is, as an investor or even as an entrepreneur, it's always important to kind of understand the various inflection points or the process that a founder or founding team has to go through, again, to get from 0 to 1. From the investment standpoint, from the investment lens, again, in keeping with this tone that investors need to be active, they need to understand their companies, they need to empathize with their founders in order to be more effective investors, we thought it would be very, very relevant and informative to kind of have a show focused on telling the journey and the inflection points that a founder or founding team has to go through, again, with the objective of making better investors.
So I have a few ideas for Inflection Point. I've had this friend Michaela, this other friend Cameron, this other friend named Micah.
I was just hanging out with them.
Yeah. So I think they would be great on the show. Do you guys agree? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So since I'm up here, I'll just pitch them to you. But I think maybe some of them, Nexus would be their inflection point.
I was trying to pitch them, actually.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So we'll work on this together. Okay, there you go. See how we did that better than Mark and Michaela? Everybody? Okay, so show us the reel?
Yes.
Okay, let's see it. That's not it. Maybe we'll see it later. Maybe we'll see it at the end of the plenary. Oh, maybe we're seeing it. Oh, yeah, here we go with sound, please.
I just landed in Chicago. I'm on my way to meet Greg Junes. He's the CEO and founder of VictorTech Inc., which just launched a new mobile tool to help veterans and their families.
It's a really easy to use interface designed to connect military members, veterans, to employment opportunities, health services, discount specials, activities, and events.
This could really change the whole military transition process.
They can have it at their fingertips.
The limited funds that I went into this with was the biggest roadblock. Not knowing if you're going to be able to pay the rent, pay the mortgage. Yeah, it's that part is terrifying.
Detroit!
Welcome to the 2017 Creator Awards.
VictorTech has been selected as a finalist in the Creator Awards competition.
What the stakes are is we're up for funding.
I believe starts at $36,000 all the way up to $76,000.
This could be the cash infusion they need to launch them to the next level.
Are you excited? Are you nervous? Did you get everything done?
You won't catch too much emotion out of any of us, but that's not to say we're not nervous.
Obviously, Greg's going to be the main focus.
Yeah, so I need to put a 3-minute pitch together.
He created this, so he's got that vision, but he's only got 3 minutes to do this. I know he's nervous. I know we're nervous. He's done this a million times over, but to know that you have to do it at one time with a lot at stake in front of a lot of people.
You know they're there, but like you can't like see their faces because there's lights on you and stuff.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks.
Right now, it's really just about supporting Greg.
Oh no, I'm pitching right now.
So it seems like there's a lot on the line here.
A little bit. Yeah.
There are so many factors that need to come together in order to build a successful company. But industry leaders will tell you that one of the most important factors is the mission.
When I got out of the Marine Corps in 2010, started using drugs, drinking a lot, I went through a divorce, living on my car, jobs were not good, and life sucked.
It happens so quick, like you're in, you're out. Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own transition story, and I didn't have a purpose. I was just pretty much being stagnant.
I had no idea where to find the resources I needed. I felt isolated. I didn't have my tribe, so to speak. So I built this because I wanted a product that does what I wanted to do.
The American Legion, the VFW, are having difficult times right now. It's great events that they're doing. They just need the tool to connect with that younger generation.
I changed the picture.
Do you like how this?
It wasn't as if I applied for the job. I actually asked Greg if I could work for him. As a veteran myself, it's helping out the community that we sacrificed to be part of.
There's not a lot of ego. That's what really, made me believe in Greg.
There's two sides of him, this very serious, kind of menacing look, and then here's the guy with the Hawaiian shirt on.
Hello. It's exciting to say, I'm a CEO. And like, yeah, on paper I'm a CEO. I don't feel like a CEO. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I know how to delegate, and I know how to issue tasks.
I mean, we're Marines, we're service members, we're mission oriented.
Once a Marine, always a Marine. You always get to hold that.
The money will come if you do the right thing. It's the bigger picture, what this app could do for individuals and families that are military connected.
Can everyone hear that okay, by the way? All right, okay.
We
All right,
can-
okay, we
yeah,
can hear.
we
All right.
can. So now that you've seen inflection point and I've had my 3 chimes, I'm effectively done. But I want, as you leave the stage, to tell us what are 2 or 3 of the issues or industry areas you're really excited about, so that when the people do swarm you, the people that you're working on an issue might be the ones who you can rise to the top.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think right now there's just a lot of conversation happening around the sort of clean tech space overall. I think there's obviously a lot of breakout topics within that, but we think that's a really interesting topic right now to be talking about. I also think real estate may sound quite boring, but I think is a really interesting topic to be talking about, just because the journey that at least most investors and family businesses in particular are going through is both wealth creation and wealth preservation. And there seems to be a big question mark right now, just given sort of global trends. What does a wealth preservation strategy look like? And real estate there becomes, I think, a very interesting conversation to have. So that's the second one I would kind of flag there.
Okay, so anyone interested in social impact with clean tech and real estate, come find Karam. Thank you to Karma for being here, for giving your gift of your services and your time. Thank you, Karam.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you very much.